welcome to Red Eyes Radio. My name is Henrik Palmgren and our website is redeyescreations.com. Good to have you all with us as we are going to discuss some interesting topics. The intelligent universe, AI, that's artificial intelligence, ET, and the emerging mind of the cosmos. That's the title of a book by Jim Gardner, who joins us today on the program. He is a complexity theorist and also author of Cosm. That's his first book. He's been lecturing at major scientific institutions and conferences. He's been published in many major mainstream scientific magazines. He's got a background in law at Yale College and Yale Law School. The websites that you should take a look at right away if you want to follow along here in our program today is intelligentuniverse.org and also biocosm.org for his two book titles. Jim Gardner, welcome to Red Eyes Radio. Great to have you.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
It's excellent to have you here. And why don't we begin just as a way of introduction for our listeners as well. You have a background in law, but now you've gotten into science, space, and cosmology. Tell us a little bit about that transition, if you will.
Well, it's a very interesting one, and I'm happy to say that I'm not the first lawyer that made the transition from law to cosmology. My role model really is Edwin Hubble, for whom the famous space telescope is named. And Hubble received his initial training as a lawyer and actually practiced law for a period of time, but then felt compelled to turn his attention to the deepest of cosmological mysteries. And I'm happy to say that I'm honored to follow in his footsteps.
Excellent. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your main theses? I don't know if it's proper to kind of maybe talk as an overview of Biocosm first, or if we should dive straight into... Okay, let's go.
Biocosm was my first book, and I was very delighted to see that Amazon.com, the editors of Amazon.com, selected it among distinguished company from Science Books Published that year as one of the 10 best science books of 2003. That was a great honor. But the basic hypothesis in Biocosm is that the universe is in the process of coming to life, literally coming to life, and that the role of life in interacting with the cosmological constants, the laws of nature, is much more profound, proactive, and creative than traditional mainstream physicists are willing to admit. Life essentially is the essential phenomenon in the universe under the what I call the selfish biocosm hypothesis, and that's named after Richard Dawkins' concept of the selfish gene. The universe under this scenario is a replicator that is in the process of spawning baby universes, and the role of life and mind, sufficiently evolved life and mind, is essentially to serve as a kind of midwife, or perhaps more precisely as the reproductive organ of the cosmos.
So, what role do the human beings have in this process? What are we?
We're a part of the transition, the progression toward steadily ascending intelligence that will not end with the human being as the end point of evolution, but I believe will, as Ray Kurzweil has predicted, will yield ever more powerful forms of artificial intelligence. So you might think of us, if you were to analogize it, to the role of a component of a living cell. I like to think of us as mitochondria.
And I mean, I know that Ray Kurzweil has an introduction to your new book, The Intelligent Universe, and I want to talk a little bit more about that kind of a general overarching idea later about some of his theories as well. But maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the intelligent universe as well. Does that imply a creator in this process as well, or how do you view this, Jim?
In a sense. What does that mean, the intelligent universe? Well, it means, to paraphrase the astrophysicist Paul Davies, that the laws of the universe are cunningly contrived to coax life and intelligence into being against the raw odds. It means that life and intelligence are cosmic imperatives rather than improbable accidents. It means also that the laws of physics have somehow almost miraculously engineered their own comprehension through the medium of our human minds. And it means that the emergence of life and intelligence was written into the cosmic playbook from the very first moment of the Big Bang. And finally, it means that life was destined from that very first moment to eventually dominate the universe, to infuse it with massive intelligence, and to ultimately serve as the instrument of cosmic reproduction.
Does it take us a little bit closer to the mystery of origins of the universe? I
think it does, yes. And I think it really means that the role of life and mind is antecedent, is more important than the role of the physical laws and constants. That those are, in a sense, secondary phenomena. They function like DNA does. They're a form of cosmic DNA that guide the evolution, the physical evolution of the cosmos.
That's really interesting. And people have talked about, for instance, the complexity of DNA in terms of evolution as well, that it's very difficult, so to speak, for certain aspects of our DNA and some of the sentient life on this planet and maybe elsewhere as well, to just kind of spawn out of this soup of accidents, if you will. And it seems to imply that there is a more intelligent designer, if you will. How's your take on that, Jim?
In a sense, it is what I sometimes have characterized my hypothesis is intelligent design absent a divine designer.
Okay.
So that it's a fully naturalistic view, but there's no question but that under my hypothesis, intelligence as essentially the reproductive agent of baby universes does have a designer aspect, but it's a fully naturalistic explanation.
And do you think then that human beings are kind of hardwired to progress as well, or to evolve to be the kind of if you will, the eyes and the ears, for now at least, for of the universe?
That's exactly correct. You have it exactly correct. That we're the cutting edge of the progression of intelligence, but we're far from the end product.
Really interesting. Yeah. How about some of the physical laws? If we talk about that as well, some have even suggested that we actually live in a kind of a computer game environment, if you will. Things are very restricted in a 3D sense, at least. Do you subscribe at all to the idea that the universe is kind of a holographic computer, and we're inside this game, if you will?
Yeah, it's a very interesting idea, and as I've thought about that, it occurred to me that ultimately, when you break it down, it doesn't really make that much difference, because if let's assume it is a game, but the game is played with all the same chess pieces that constitute the atoms and quarks that populate the physical cosmos. So, in a sense, the ideas collapse to the same idea.
What about evolution again, then? Is this thrown out the door, if you will, with your thesis, or how does that fit into it?
Oh, no, absolutely not. But it really reconceives terrestrial evolution as essentially a subroutine in a larger process of cosmic ontogenesis. And ontogenesis is the process by which a fertilized egg matures into an adult form of a particular organism. So, there's the old adage, probably, and pretty much demonstrated to be literally incorrect, of ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. And what that means is, as the embryo develops, it essentially exhibits some of the characteristics of earlier forms of evolved species. And what I'm basically saying is that evolution absolutely exists and operates, but it's a subroutine. It's a component of a much larger process of maturation